Hello and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. I'm your host, Jen Mason, and with me is the not born in the USA, Julie Fan Balzer. Hello, Julie.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so glad to have you here. We're going to have you explain why you weren't born in the USA because I think it's actually fascinating. And my husband always forgets this. I think I've told him this fact like 15 times, and every time he acts like I've never told him. But we are celebrating Born in the USA in the month of July, which is our Independence month. Also, just summer and time for popsicles and hanging around, the staycations. Actually, hopefully everybody's getting out there for vacations this summer. What are we doing today? We're eating our July Curdbox. You are listening or watching to our July Curdbox Curdcast. What is Curdbox? Curdbox is it's a cheese and pairing experience. We deliver it to your door every month. You do not get to know what's coming before it gets there. It's a surprise. And 3 cheeses, 3 pairings, and it all revolves around a story. This month's story is Born in the USA. So these are all products that are from our U.S. Makers, and you might have heard at the beginning that Julie is not born in the USA. So Julie, why aren't you born in the USA? Were you born in outer space?
I was actually. I'm a Martian. No, so my parents were in England for 2 years. My parents are both American citizens, but they were in England. My dad was writing a book. And so I was born in Oxford, England, and they were at the very end of his fellowship when I was due. And so I'm the reason they got stuck in England extra because they couldn't fly until I was at least 6 weeks old. So when I was 6 weeks, we took a plane. So I have a passport, an expired passport with a photo of me at 1 day old in it. Which, as my mother said, you can keep a passport, I think, for you used to be able to keep it for 5 years. I think maybe 10 years now. Mm-hmm. But she said traveling with a 5-year-old and showing them a photo of a newborn is kind of hilarious.
Definitely. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're here now and that you are with us for some cheese tasting. So we're going to start with, let's see, I think I want to start with our hoop cheese, which is easy to find on our plates today. It's the orange one. And this guy is made by Striplings in Georgia. Oops, I'm holding it up and not showing it. So this looks like standard cheddar. This is a cheddar. This is a younger cheddar. It's made in a.
It's super rich.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny because it has the texture of sort of just a very young cheddar cheese, but it has a lot of flavor. So this is like an old traditional. It's cheddar, so it does come from other places, but this particular hoop cheese is a southern sort of specialty that you would regularly find. Yeah.
Is hoop cheese like a kind of cheese, or is hoop cheese like the name of this particular cheese?
Hoop cheese is the name of this particular type of cheddar. And it's basically the curds as they're making it, they put the coagulant in whatever they're using. And in this case, let's see, we have, I don't know let's see where my notes are. So they use a traditional rennet in this, and that makes it become, the milk turn into a solid. They drain out all the whey. So curds and whey, they left with curds, and the curds get put into a hoop. And I think it's just sort of a Southern tradition on the name hoop cheese. Pretty much all cheeses get put into some kind of mold. That's how they get their shape. They get taken out of the mold once they're all
maybe a hoop cheese as opposed to like a farmer cheese or like a ball
exactly
cheese.
Yeah, or like a ricotta or So but a lot of cheeses are put into molds, but this is sort of like a Southern name. The Striplings really does it justice. It's simple and it's in some ways mild, but for a mild cheddar, I think it's really interesting. And I wanted to give people a taste of sort of something that's been around here for a while. I'm trying to look up the date. So Striplings opened their family farm in 1964, and then they moved it to Cordell, Georgia, where it is now. It's slightly salty. There is actually, this is a red rind hoop cheese. There is a black rind hoop cheese, and that tends to be more pungent and acidic. So they have even different recipes there. But it's a staple of the South. People would pick it up when they went to the grocery store. This is just good old American.
Yeah, it definitely has that rich mouthfeel, and then it almost has like a sour cream aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way
Very
I would
much
describe it.
And I would say a lot of that is from the youngness of it. I think if that aged, you'd get something that became what we like to call sharper here, but here it's more like a sour cream. So anyways, that's our beautiful hoop cheese by Stripling out of Georgia. So we've hit Georgia as our first state. Now we're going to go to Wisconsin, and we're going to have the Grand Cru Surchoix. I believe that. I looked it up. I think that's how I remember pronouncing it, which is so Roth cheese out of Wisconsin. This is the firmer off-white cheese we have in the creamy cheese, and we have cream colored cheese we have in the box.
Entirely kind of like Swiss.
Exactly. So this is basically modeled. It is a Swiss style cheese made in Wisconsin, modeled after sort of a Swiss Gruyere. Much different taste. It's got a little bit more of a sour taste, but also, oh, and I meant to have you smell each one of them before we ate them. This one has sort of more deeper, brothier smell. It doesn't actually come through. You don't get a brothy taste with this one, but you do. It smells much different than the hoop cheese.
It's a subtler, it's a more subtle smell. Like the hoop cheese, you definitely you smell it. It smells kind of like it tastes. This one is like, if somebody were like uber sensitive to smells, or you were going to eat it on a train, like not a problem.
Right. Exactly. And it falls into the smooth and melty category. So this is a great one to put on a panini. That's a great one to melt in a fondue. Only a certain amount of them get aged of the Grand Cru that Roth makes, and they become the Surchoix. This is a vegetarian rennet, and this one comes from Cheeseland in Wisconsin. And it's an Alpine style cheese. So when we picked these today, we wanted to pick something so you could wrap your head, or not just you, everybody who's eating the box can sort of wrap their head around the diversity we have in American cheese. And that has not always been the case. If you go back to, the 30s, the 40s, we had very little cheese. I don't know when we brought Velveeta in. There's, gosh, I'm going to forget what it is now. There's a great movie out there about sort of the work of how craft cheese came along and craft singles. Sort of a documentary film, maybe not documentary, but it's very interesting because they had to figure out how to make things last from one place to the other. This is early, icebox kind of. We didn't have the kind of refrigerated trucks we have now. They were. They had just finished cutting ice chunks from the lake and putting them down in cellars to try to keep things cold for the summer. So interesting history of America and cheese, but I wanted to show diversity in our makers. So this was a really fun box to put together. Okay, so we've looked right now. This is a 9-month cheese because, like I said, the Surchoix is Grand Cru cheese that is tasted and gets picked to become aged even more. You never age a cheese that already doesn't taste excellent, because it just will.
It doesn't
magnify
improve with age. Excellence. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It does improve with age. It keeps improving with age, but if it's bad, it'll keep unimproving with age. So what's good gets better, what's bad gets worse. So they start with things that are good, and they have to start aging them and taste them to decide which batches are going to get aged. So
I want that job.
really interesting thing. Yeah, they have these cool little tools. They're like half circle knife, or they're like round knives, and they stick them in and turn them. It's like checking the rings on a
Internal
tree.
temperature or something. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, how they can test the rings on the tree, and they can put
Mm-hmm.
it would be great if I knew the names of the tool, but
I didn't know that they could test the rings
ring.
on the trees, but I'm going to believe you now.
Okay, I'll look it up and we'll share that later. But okay, so we have diversity, and so to have diversity, I think we need a third cheese, and I think we should add on our San Geronimo by Nicasio. Now we're going to go out to California. Now give this one a sniff. This
one I don't need to bring up to my nose to sniff. I've been sniffing it for the last hour while it's been sitting in here.
So this is a sort of a mix on raclette and Fontino. So it's very soft. It is technically, when it's entered in contest, entered as a raclette style cheese. This would melt beautifully. You could melt this. You could have like a summer fun with this one.
It practically melts in your fingers.
It really does. But if you melted this, you could have it over a summer grilled hot dog or summer sausage off of the grill and it would be amazing.
This is my kind of stinky cheese, man.
Yeah, and it's of this stinky cheese. It's really I want to say it's like a rounded stinky cheese. It doesn't like just go off in one direction. I don't know if I'm explaining that nice, but it's like it's got some sour notes. It's got some brothy notes, and it's got some tangy notes in there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like when you have those hot wings that all you taste is hot and you don't taste any flavor. I don't like that, right? I want the hot to enhance the flavor, not to be the flavor.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with like a funky or a stinky cheese. You don't want the stink or the funk to be the flavor. Mm-hmm. You want it to be something that like kicks in and like makes everything else even better.
Exactly. So now that we've tried these three cheeses, and let me actually tell you a little bit about Nicasio. So this is a family ranch. This cheese comes from, and it has been owned by the grandparents, multiple generations from the early 1900s. So it's lovely when you can see a multi-generational family like this still making beautiful cheeses. And this cheese is only about 6 weeks old.
What?
The youngest cheese. Yeah. So when you were talking about it sort of melts in your mouth, basically it just has the moisture has not been aged out of it. If you cut an orange in half and leave it out, the air will just dry it and it'll get drier and drier and drier. So cheese does the same thing. Although it's still edible, unlike a dried up orange, which is just potpourri. I think that it's really interesting to see how much flavor they were able to get into this in 6 weeks. It's kind of, for a stinky cheese, I don't want to say it's a mild stinky cheese. So I know some people eat this and go, this is not mild, but it's kind of got like a custardy feeling. It's like, it's definitely a cheese, but it melts in your hands, it melts in your mouth, and it would be great melted over sort of a bratwurst on a toasted bun. But the things that we're pairing with this, because I always like to give people insight on what made us pick what for this, so that you can maybe learn something and make your own cheese boards and pick your own fun stuff, is we picked 3 items, some nuts, some prosciutto, and something sweet with the jam, to sort of see how sweet bounces off those 3 types of cheese. And these are, again, all things made in America. How does the nutty taste play off of the Swiss cheese versus the San Geronimo? Like, we're just gonna play a little bit, and it's I think these are all really almost neutral pairings in that they'll go with a lot of cheeses. And really what the story is about this is that they come from the US, and for you, the eater, not just you again specifically, Julie, but for people to like experiment with it and see like how it's how different flavors go together. This is kind of just like a fun discovery. Oh, I like sweet with funky. I like sweet with mild. I just like sweet, right? We can start learning some stuff with that. So let's start. Let's see. Let's actually start with our prosciutto. So it's funny to do prosciutto in a Born in the USA box, except this is Prosciutto Americano, and this comes from Iowa. So what I want to, I'm picking up a piece here because I also want to show you, if you were putting together a plate, if you get Curdbox, you can roll up your prosciutto like this and put them in little rolls, which is always fun, makes it easy to eat. The other way to do it is to take one of your slices and just sort of drop them down, and take another piece. I'm putting these all in my hand here. And you just are sort of setting them down to make this lovely little pile of prosciutto. Some people don't know the best way to sort of present those. Those are a couple different ways. And now I have prosciutto all over my hands. But this is made in Iowa. It's made in the style of prosciutto.
Salty and tasty.
Yeah, and Iowa knows how to do pigs. This is made by La Querica, so pronounced the Italian way.
I have to say, I appreciate the packaging.
Yes.
Because like so often if I get prosciutto from the deli, it's such a pain to try to separate the pieces of prosciutto. But the way that this is packaged with these little pieces of, I'm going to call it interleaving, because that's what we would call it in the art world.
Yeah.
With these little pieces of paper that separate the layers so you can easily access them. I actually there's lots of stuff I wish was packaged like this, like smoked salmon, all kinds of stuff that's hard to get apart.
100%. I totally agree. And it was so easy to sort of pull these off, even though my pieces look like it was lovely to just be able to. Lovely. It is a really beautiful prosciutto. The name La Querica means the oak in Italian, and the oak is sort of the traditional symbol of the province of Parma, where prosciutto is usually made, but it's also the state tree of Iowa. So it's fun how they tied those two together. This has been hailed by food critic Jeffrey Steingarten as sort of the best American or imported prosciutto he's ever tasted. Wow. I've tasted a lot of great prosciuttos. I would put this up there with them. It's beautiful.
I can't stop eating it. It's so good.
Very, very good. I guess I should stop eating it so I can pair it with things in a minute. It's nitrate free. It's cured only using sun-dried sea salt. It's what I like about it is it's not very gamey. Sometimes a prosciutto lends itself to a real gaminess that is not typical of the American palate a lot of times, or like the American palate that doesn't. I grew up in the Midwest American palate. Let's just say that. Nothing wrong with being from the Midwest, because I am. Speaking of the Midwest, I would like to add, let's talk blueberry preserves by Brownwood Farms. So this comes from Michigan, my home state. And we've had Brownwood in the box before. We've had their maple and bacon jam, which everybody loved. And this is beautiful. Like all of their products are based on, are based on Michigan products. So
yum, yum. So I have to tell you, this morning when I was putting out my cheese plate, I saw the label and I knew it was from these makers who Steve loves their cherry jam that you've had in the box. And so I was like, you don't like blueberries, do you? And he was like, no. I was like, well, I have this. I don't know if you're going to like it. And he was like, gimme, because he saw the label. So I hadn't tried it with him, but he tried it. And the analysis he said this is bomb, which is apparently a very, very good thing.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, we'll have to make sure we get him plenty. Yeah, it's so nice because it is like,
it's sweet, but not cloying. You taste the blueberry flavor, but it's also not nice. like stringy or anything, you know? I mean, it's a very, very nice jam.
Yeah, it feels like you're eating fruit, unlike sometimes a jelly, feels kind of like you're eating gel.
Yeah, this one really has like a pie filling feeling.
Yeah, it is. So you can have, peanut butter and pie filling sandwiches for lunch. But yeah, it's very good. It's nice and tangy. It's going to stand up to the tanginess in these cheeses. I think we'll let you give your opinion when we try these.
It's going to be interesting too, the sweetness with the salt of the prosciutto. Because of course, one of my favorite things to eat is prosciutto and melon. And it's like the jam sort of becomes the sweet of the melon.
Definitely, definitely. And that's kind of the way to think about things when you want to make a cheese plate, really when you want to make anything. But when you want to make a cheese plate, think about something you've had recently. You went out to dinner, you had, maybe or you went to a party and they had prosciutto and melon, and think like, how can I redo that? So it's definitely salty, maybe for sure. I wanted to use the prosciutto, but how could I do that in a different way? Could I wrap prosciutto around a breadstick and then serve it with drizzled something sweet, like a drizzled, I don't know, savory maple syrup? What could you do that like mixes the salty and the sweet in a different way? That's really how we come up with all of our ideas for this. And you guys out there listening, watching are all really, really smart humans, because you've got Curdbox, or you have friends who got you Curdbox. So you associate with very smart people, therefore you must be brilliant. So you can do this too. I encourage you to think of something and let it be your inspiration for your next cheese board, or whatever you're doing, your next pizza. Make a fancy pizza that's not just pepperoni and cheese. Okay, so this was again from Brownwood Farms, who we absolutely love. We loved everything of theirs that we've put in their box. And I think we should go down to our nuts. So these are made by Bobby Stu's Nuts. These are everything goes nuts. So they're like, everything bagels, everything seasoning mix. This has cashews and almonds.
I was going to say, I've been reading the packaging because they have a whole story on here about quality and how they support, when you purchase our nuts, you'll support animal welfare and our goal to help build modern shelters for all animals in need. And I thought that was interesting. It says on big letters at the bottom, every sale saves animals.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's interesting because people are important to save, but sometimes people are put in instances where they can't bring an animal along, when they've had the fires and they've needed to evacuate the animals. People have a barn full of horses. You can't just put them in the back of your Subaru, or they aren't allowed to bring their pet to a shelter, or because they've been evacuated. There's so many ways that, even though they're well loved, that they need help. So,
well, I like their mission and I support it, but these nuts are good.
You support the nuts regardless.
I support the nuts.
So good. It's amazing
good.
How well, you think nuts and something that's also just like a flavoring, how do they make it stick? How do they make it taste that way? How do they do it? They're really good. And they're adding now to our plate a nuttiness, sort of a toastiness to the plate. So we've got some ham, some sweet, nutty, this is like a really fun plate. I think this is perfect to take to a barbecue. It's a perfect reason to have friends over, have some lemonade, or have a couple, craft beers, or some cider, whatever makes you happy. Be great with some sangria, with whatever is growing right now, strawberries, peaches. I see peaches are starting to come in season up here in the Northeast. Whatever you've got going, this is a really fun, easy to love board. So let's pair things and see what we like best. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to start with the San Geronimo and some blueberry. I'm going funky and sweet. Ooh.
I'm going to go with a triple decker. I'm going to have prosciutto, jam, and what's the name of the one that's like a Swiss?
The Surchoix.
There you go. The Surchoix. That's a tasty bite. Yum.
Very nice.
I think this is going to be one of those boxes where just everything pairs perfectly because there's such good, nice flavors of everything. Nothing's like outrageous or odd, you know.
I just had the jam with the San Geronimo, and what I want to do now is to make a grilled cheese with some of the blueberry on there and the San Geronimo, because it tastes really rich because it's kind of got that custardy feel. So it makes me want to have that and then use that sharp blueberry to just like cut through it.
Oh yeah,
really good.
Actually, the blueberry does cut the funk amazingly. So again, like when you're trying to please people who may not be like, oh, I don't like funky cheeses, if you pre-make a couple little aperitifs, you know.
Exactly.
Nut chaser, always a good idea.
Oh man, I would chase everything with those nuts.
Right? What's this orange cheese called?
The orange cheese is the hoop cheese.
The hoop cheese. Hoop cheese and a nut going in. A fine combo. Crunchiness of the nut. This is such a good snacking box. This is just like a noshing box. You just want
That's
to
a good tip for those of you who are busy having summers. You're like out at the neighbor's pool. You're going to the park. You're doing whatever. One of the things we like to do is we have a couple bento boxes, like plastic bento box, kind of multi-compartment boxes. And because I always have cheese in my fridge because I run cheese businesses, I will pre-cut up a bunch of things and sort of make like grown-up Lunchables. So at any time when somebody wants to, my husband's just like on a break between calls, or dinner's going to be late and we need a snack, we'll just pull that out, and it keeps the cheese pretty nice for a few days, so it doesn't get dried out, and we can pull out and make our own little Lunchable snacks. It feels so decadent to have some pieces of cheese cut and a couple nuts, and so I highly recommend, especially for the summer, or if you're going to travel, you're going to go take a picnic, you're going to go take a hike, make yourself a little Lunchable, and you'll feel very extra.
I read a New York Times article this week that was talking about how the sort of like snacky dinner is definitely like summertime, COVID fatigue, like all these things are leading people to sort of the snacky dinner, and it gets called lots of different things in people's houses, but quite often it's like you go into the fridge, you see what's there. It's often like cheese and little things, and you make yourself a little do.
Exactly. And this is, like we said, you could have some of this with hot. You could just say, oh, for dinner we're going to do this cheese and grilled brats, like and feed 4 people happily with the grilled brats and this, and put some of the cheese on there. It's maybe some fruit,
just some crusty bread.
Oh my gosh,
you'd be happy.
So great. Yeah. So, and this isn't the only thing you guys can have like this. Like, really think, pick a jumping off point, your favorite jam, or go to the store and find a jam that looks fascinating. I wouldn't pick like Concord grape unless it was maybe made by somebody local, but find something and use that as your jumping off point, and hit those other flavor profiles: sweet, salty, spicy. Think about nuts that could be sweet and spicy. And find something that's a jumping off point, and snack away. And if you guys want to eat our next box with us, you just need to go to curdbox.com here at the bottom of your window, and you can get your box. If you order this month, you'll get next month's box. They ship out. They start arriving the third Wednesday of the month, and we now actually have the opportunity to get a 3-month or a 6-month prepaid subscription, and you can add on wine from our partners from Italian Selection, and you'll get either 3 or 6 bottles of perfectly paired cheese-friendly wine, so you can drink all the wine in the first box, or you can save the wine and drink one with each month. But they're beautiful. We've picked them out. These are special bottles that come from Italy, from our friends who bring them over from little tiny vineyards that don't get over here any other way. They're very hard. They're hard to find here in the U.S., We're one of the only people that has access to them. And we're super excited to do that. It's a great gift for somebody, but also, don't you deserve it? You deserve it, Julie. So check out curdbox.com. You can check out the Curdbox with wine option, which we just made live last week. So super new. And let's see. Let's tell everybody how they can find our makers today, going to the top of our list. So hoop cheese, which is our orange cheese on our plate, that's from Striplings General Store. At Striplings General Store, the Surchoix, the Grand Cru Surchoix, comes from at Roth Cheese. Our San Geronimo is coming from at Nicasio Valley Cheese. Our prosciutto is from La Querica at, I'm going to spell this, LAQUERCIA. And at Brownwood _Farms is where you can find the Michigan blueberry preserves, and honestly, the best preserves you'll ever try. And Bobby Sue's at Bobby Sue's Nuts is where you can find some delicious nuts, other flavors. We've had some of them in our box before. They're so good. They're just so good. I only am sad that we can't put like a 6-pound bag in your boxes, everybody, because they're so delicious. You can find Julie at What Julie Ate, and you can find Curdbox at Curdbox. Go to curdbox.com and get your box and eat along with us next month. Julie, thanks so much for eating Born in the USA with us this month. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, but do they have a 6-pound bag of these nuts? Because I'm on it.
No, but shouldn't they? We can write into at Bobby Sue's Nuts and tell them I'd like it in a 6-pound bag. Excellent. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next month. Have a good one. Bye-bye.